meditation, of course, and specifically the aspect of meditation called reflection and investigation into meanings. We talked a lot about concentration and observation and using those to restart meditation. But let's define meditation. What is meditation? Well, there are a lot of them. There's so many, too many really. Some are good, some are not so good, and some are really harmful. So we're looking for the right meditation. And by right meditation, we mean one that really leads to results. It's not just you sit there and nothing happens. You get up and nothing's changed. So the right meditations lead someplace, and they give you real self-evident results. These meditations we do are to raise our consciousness and uplift our awareness. So meditation is really an exploration beyond the subjective personality into the great ocean of mind, you could call it, towards alignment with the eternal, towards alignment with our inner self. Which means meditation is a movement of consciousness.
Now it's off.
Okay. So, meditation is a movement of consciousness in time. It's a successive formulation of mind into interconnected thoughts that lead us to perception and knowledge. Perception of knowledge, of course, is the focus of our meditation. In other words, meditation is a means of gaining knowledge and experience. So our meditations are a series of related noetical images. When Aki gives one, she goes, see the white light, see it in your feet, see your body full of light. These are noetical images. And those images enter the conscious part of our mind and are stored in the subconscious part of our mind. And we can retrieve them and bring them back and experience them again from the subconsciousness. In fact, when we do certain visualization meditations, we don't really give this thing, but it's part of it. You should try practicing on really simple things like a star or a triangle or something and see it really perfectly. Then dissolve it, because it means it goes back into the subconscious mind. And next time, retrieve it whole. Put it back, retrieve it whole. This is really the basic training, so all these steps in her meditations, be more effective for you. When we by drawing it back from our subconscious mind to our conscious mind again, you have to realize you can't recall anything that's not been placed in the subconscious. There's no way. The point is, the images must remain under our conscious control. They shouldn't just rise up like in fantasies, because we're looking for a creative visualization, not fantasy. And a fantasy is when somebody loses control of this process, where these images rise up in our subconscious mind with no logical sequence. They get mixed up together. For example, in our mind, we all know the color purple. We all know what an alligator is. And we all know what a bird is. So fantasy would be when we see a purple flying alligator with wings. Don't you see one now? So without control, these just illogically, and that's what happens in our dreams. They kind of rise up illogically. We're not consciously under control. That's why our dreams, one reason why our dreams are so seemingly illogical. Daydreaming is not conscious visualization meditation either. But with daydreaming, the retrieval of the image is much more logical than in fantasy, and much more enjoyable, really. So how are we seeing these images in our mind? To see images in this world, we need light. But there is no light in our brains inside our skull. So what's happening? How are we seeing? How do we see the colors? How do we see the form? Well, it's through the super senses, but it's the very subconscious use of it. Those really are the real senses. Once you start using those, the material senses seem very, very weak. So it's the one corresponding to sight, where we see how we see the visualized images. Like, same thing with the dreams. We're not using our material sight, we're using the supersensitive sight in our dreams to see the images. But again, it's not well developed. We use it subconsciously. But the visualizations practices are really training us to use it consciously, because again, we have our eyes closed when we do the meditations, but we're instructed to see these images. And as we said before, that leads to clairvoyance. Clairvoyance. Clair means clear, voyance means seeing. So seeing clearly, that's what the word means. Not at the material level, but at the higher level, which means the etheric, the psychical, and noetical. The supersensitive sight enables us to see our visualized images, receive inner vision, and perform remote viewing. We all hear about remote viewing, where you see something going on at a distance. That's all done by the supersensitive sight. When it gets developed very well by these practices, and we develop it very much by these practices, but even in daydreaming and fantasy to some degree, we're developing it, because again, we're seeing images. So every time we visualize something, in either in a conscious visualization, a creative visualization, a daydream, or even a fantasize, we're working on it a bit, but we're doing it subconsciously. We want conscious control of this process. Now, meditation also sets thought and feeling into motion. It's a movement of your conscious awareness through meanings which you create. In other words, meditation is a result of thought and feeling. This motion of thought and feeling creates the psychonoetical images, the elementals. All this is a result of the interplay of duality. Without duality, we can't raise meanings of anything. In other words, we have to compare two or more things, or we would not understand them or ourselves. That's why we're want to do introspection. That's why we're doing these kind of deep introspective practices, so we can separate the present-day personality self and the inner self. Right now, we don't really quite understand where they are and are not. So we have to separate them. And then we say, oh, okay, I get it. This, small self thinks and does this thing, but the inner self is this way. Then we start to be able to really understand what the inner self is, because we can only learn by comparison, which requires concentration and observation. All of which, again, raise meanings of what we are concentrating on, what we're observing, what we're comparing. So the only purpose of these meditations is to raise our consciousness and uplift our awareness. In other words, become a better person, making better and better expressions in our life. That purpose for meditation is quite good. And initially it started with good motivations and intentions. The problem with it is motivations change over time. So our motivations are not steady or always pure when we do meditation. And this is the big difference between introspection and meditation. In introspection, our motives have to be pure for it to work. And that purity of intention is what prevents our introspection exercises from becoming hijacked by our egoism. It happens more than you think. So meditation is not really contemplation. Aki touched on that earlier. Although one can lead to the other. Good meditation can lead into a great contemplation, and a good contemplation can lead into a great meditation. So they're not isolated from each other by any means. And contemplation is really a deductive process. It's deductive logic. And deductive logic is top-down logic. You start with a conclusion, and then you take it further down and find the individual parts of it. For example, Stoney's a man, right? We all know that. So the conclusion would be, all men are mortal. Stoney is a man, therefore Stoney's mortal. That's the example of that type of deductive reasoning. But again, we're talking about human meditation, human contemplation, not divine meditation or divine contemplation, which is not within our reach as a personality today. And the divine meditation contemplation is a result of will. It's not a result of the duality of thought as human contemplation and meditation is. Also, the archangels, they're in constant meditation, divine meditation, as is our innermost self, our eternal being self. Now, the golden keys of meditation also require the other ones, as I said, our observation and concentration. Meditation requires contemplation and investigation on a subject. Meditation is not as active as a visualization or introspection exercise, which is more a reflection and investigation. We're reflecting back the day's event and introspection and meditating on it. Where it's much more active than it is some of these meditations where you follow along the led meditation, this step, this step, this step. So it's practiced in various degrees, from simple to advanced. You can't just jump to the most advanced ones. A lot of people come, they want to jump to the most advanced meditations or jump to the most advanced teachings in the system, and they become like a sunflower. They grow up, they have a big head, and then the head drops over because there's not enough support. So in our work, we really want to be more like a pyramid where the base is real big and strong and you can build higher and higher and higher. But the first order of all our work is cleaning the personality, especially in meditation, which is a process that goes on and on and on and on. In some Eastern systems, they say, oh, you meditate for a long time. When I studied with that, before Daskalos, with that yogi who was just only taught concentration, minimum was 1 hour. There were people there who were doing it for 4.5 hours, 9 hours. One guy did it 12 hours a day. The yogi did it 23 hours a day for 12 years. Yeah. He'd get up, he'd eat a piece of fruit, drink a glass of milk, take a bath, sit back down. That's all he did. And when he came out of it, everybody was a big deal, and the Indian government declared him as one of their national treasures, their spiritual treasures, and he gained a lot of powers doing this. And he was a beautiful human being, so he was developing his psychonoetical body at the same time. He was a very beautiful person, and he could make rain. And the government would call him and go to make rain. I've got videos of him making rain in a drought reservoir. It was empty. So anyway, he got a lot of power from doing that, but that's not really our purpose to get power. Our purpose is to raise our consciousness, purify our personality so it can be assimilated to the inner self, which is the ultimate. And these things may be good for, Westerners, but for Easterners, but for Westerners, we don't need that. I think it's because they're at a different level of evolution, let's say. The Westerner needs to use the mind, and we don't need to meditate a long time. 15 minutes for visualization exercise in the beginning, 10 minutes for introspection, that's it. Much, much better to have a highly focused meditation. If you sit there and if you're not trained and you don't train yourself, of course, with this guy, you had to train yourself to sit there for an hour without going nuts, right? But if you don't, your mind's just jumping all over the place. You can't hold it still very long. So it jumps all over the place. And that's not real meditation. And it's not real effective. In the long run, about these meditation practices you're hearing, it's best to be able to memorize them. Because after you get used to them for a while, then the led meditations may be too slow or too fast for you. So if you memorize it, you can go at your own pace steady. And the best results are, we've said before, just say it again, are achieved with steady routine practice. And it's best if you pick a time of day where you will not be disturbed and you won't cause an inconvenience to others. We don't want to inconvenience others by trying to do our meditation. And again, at the same time, same spot, if you can do that in a comfortable way, like in laying down, sitting in a chair. It doesn't really matter. The position doesn't matter. What matters is your ability to concentrate in that position.
But the spine should be straight.
Spine should be straight, sure, of course. But Not overly straight, not rigid. You should be feeling comfortable, but you keep your spine straight, right? And you start by letting go all tensions in your body, in your emotion, in your mind. You take a few deep breaths, relax before you start it. Now, the Three Suns meditation is a great one to do in the morning for 15 minutes. And then the introspection, of course, at night. And if you'd like to do more, it's okay. And if you want to do more, we suggest maybe in the middle of the day, do another 15-minute meditation. But this one, do for somebody else. Do prayers for somebody else. Do visualizations for somebody else. So then what we've done here with the three different types of, there are three different meditations during the day, is the first one, we're training to use the ethers, which raise our consciousness. The second one, we help others, we benefit others. And the third one is we're uplifting our self-awareness. The introspection uplifts our self-awareness. It's like this. We need these meditations, but in the proper dosage. If you had a small plant and say over its lifetime it needs a gallon of water, you'll drown it if you pour a bunch on it at first. You have to be steady and give it a little bit every day. And meditation is like the water, metaphorically speaking, that we need to grow. But meditation really helps us. But how does it help us? Some people think it helps, and some people seek meditation because they want to gain abilities and powers. If you approach the teachings with that kind of motivation, you will either be disappointed because it's first of all, it's not allowed, or if you force it to try to use these teachings to gain powers and abilities, you'll have a setback or even a spiritual fall. We receive help by raising our consciousness to higher and higher levels and uplifting our awareness and helping others, of course. And in uplifting our awareness, we're just expressing more and more love, wisdom, and strength in our lives. Especially in that order. More love, wisdom, and strength. Because without wisdom, strength is blind. Without love, wisdom and strength are quite dangerous. We see that in these evil leaders, let's call them, or mad scientists kind of guys. So as we progress onward and upward our spiritual path, we face challenges, even dangers. And the teachings and practice give us the means to face them. Face them with love, wisdom, and strength. The best of all, obviously, is love, unselfish love. Because nothing can stand in the way of the expression of real love. And this is why, as researchers, we avoid meditative techniques and formulas and work for the elevation of our awareness. Really, meditation techniques and formulas are really a kind of magic, and we don't want magic. We want to uplift our awareness, really, so we can express a better self, which means higher and better ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving. It means we embrace our people in our life with a lot more love and understanding. By virtue of working this way, abilities and higher skills gradually come to you, but we don't seek them first or we go astray. Facing problems and dangers with wisdom means we use wisdom to investigate the problem and use reason to investigate possible scenarios of outcomes, to foresee the outcome. Studying these teachings give us the knowledge. Living by the teaching that turns that knowledge into wisdom. And wisdom enables us to see dangers ahead and succeed in avoiding them. Facing problems with strength means we have the power to endure any test or trial or tribulation or trouble in our life. Where does it come from? Well, it's allowed by the most divine law. And that's the fourth promise of this researcher of truth. To endure patiently without complaining, that's a hard one, all trials and tribulations the most divine law bestows on us. So we need strength for them. They come to us by the law, but not as punishment, but as an opportunity to grow and overcome. Overcome what? Overcome the problem, whatever we're being tested on. And the more you do that, the more you overcome, the more it gives you more strength, more love, more wisdom. It's really, that's back to the core value of endurance. Just think about Christ. If he hadn't endured that, nothing would have happened with his teaching. It wouldn't be what it is today. So it's the endurance part, the strength to endure that's important.